Hi, I'm Jason with SJC Management Group. Today I'm going to talk about some new city ordinances that just passed in the city of Tacoma and go into effect on July 23rd, 2023. It's the same date that the new security deposit law in Washington State goes into effect, but this is specifically for the city limits of Tacoma, Washington. So there's always been a requirement for business licenses. If you own a rental property in the city of Tacoma, you are required by the city to have a business license. You will not be able to process an eviction now on this new ordinance unless you have a business license in place. One of the other changes is it extends the notice period for rent increase from the state standard of 60 days notice to 120 days notice, and requires that notice be posted. It also requires that the notice show the percent of the rent increase as well as the dollar amount that the rent is increasing. And there is a city packet of information, kind of like a handbook that is supposed to be given out by the city, but we haven't seen it yet. And we're going to be required to obviously hand that in on move-ins or applications received in the city limits, and on lease renewals and rent increase notices on month-to-month tenancies. There will be a requirement, so to extend the period for a security deposit repayment, or not repayment, but payment plan. There is a law in Washington State that says if somebody's moving in and requests that you split the deposit up, you have to over a 3-month period of time. That gets extended out for a year lease to 6 months. And that includes any move-in fees as well with it. There's going to be kind of a host of new wording that you should have in your lease. I won't really go into detail on that. A lot of that deals with last month's rents, which should be held by the should be held by the landlord in a trust account and only be applied towards the last month's rent. So a landlord, for instance, will not be able to tell a tenant that's behind on rent. Maybe they are in between 2 jobs in the middle of their lease, and sometimes a landlord will say, hey, let me apply that last month's rent to this current month's rent, and then we'll just kind of go from there, help you out. You will not be able to do that. The other one is kind of technical. It's a requirement for the amount of rent to income ratio. Typically, you may have that at 3 or 4 times the rent amount. This has a requirement that if the property rents less than the HUD average for a similar bedroom count property in that zip code, then you can charge 3% or more. If it's at or above that medium price for a property in that area determined by HUD, then you cannot charge 3 times. You have to charge less or require less than 3 times the rent amount as your income level. So for instance, you could say 2.9%. Or 2.5%, but you could not say 3 or more. There's a kind of odd one, I think. You cannot specifically ban a breed of animal, so we're talking dogs, if you accept pets, but you're not required to accept pets. So you can't say, for instance, no Rottweiler or no, vicious breeds, whichever dog you think's a vicious breed, unless your insurance company specifically requires that as part of your landlord insurance. But you can restrict otherwise. So you could say no pets, or you could say no pets over 100 pounds, for instance. There's also a cap on pet deposits of a quarter of 1 month's rent. So you cannot charge more than that. That doesn't restrict pet rent or pet fees. So these are kind of the new ordinances that have been passed. I sort of briefly went over them. There's some more technical aspects to them for sure. I don't give legal advice. I just kind of lay out the law as I understand it when these kind of things, how they'll affect landlords. We will see a ballot initiative, or I don't know if that's the right term, but we will see a vote in Tacoma in November pertaining to, I believe, an initiative of the people kind of written by tenant right advocate groups. So we could see a lot more restrictions coming in vis-a-vis landlord tenant law issues in the city of Tacoma. So, like always, if you have any questions or need any help, please let me know. I'm Jason with SJC Management Group. Thanks.